Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. Now here you see a comparison. This is a picture I did not make of MMA fighters and martial artists, and they're using a Japanese person, if I'm not mistaken, as their example, Japanese karate, as opposed to American karate. And they're using an MMA fighter who is a white person. Now, they oversimplified it, right? Here you see principles here. It says cage fighting, ground and pound, barbaric, bloody, brutal, masters of none. This is more important than you think it is. This video is very important. He's wearing red and black pants, right? The color of darkness, the color of the devil, color of Set. Okay, and you see this Japanese person says discipline, respect, tenacity, obedience, integrity, loyalty, masters of body, mind, and spirit. Now, they're not highlighting certain things, right? Soul, romance, martial is marital scrambled. Okay, martial art, and heart. And MA is, as abbreviation backwards, is M, who the person is, versus MMA is magic martial arts, right? It's circus fighting. Now, tenacity basically means boldness, obedience, integrity, loyalty. Think of that in terms of the military. These are principles that the military and the governing class, the crest-wearing people, Prince Harry and William dressing up in military outfits sometimes, with some kind of sword. They want you to think of it in terms of white knight errantry, okay? So they're not emphasizing timing and focus and things that would put African martial artists and Asian martial arts above basically every white and Jewish person. That's not a coincidence. And martial arts cost a lot of money usually, and it's something that's done by privileged people to a large degree. And that's not a coincidence. So they do things like that to testify against themselves. Okay, now think about this picture, for example, incidentally, from the Nigerian Civil War. These are people from the Igbo tribe and tribes by them. Notice how heterosexual they look and how similar they look. Okay, that's key there. Because Nigerians have changed a lot over time, and it's similar to the reason why African Americans have changed. But we'll get to that. Let's first focus on this. We'll get to that in another video. Let's first focus on this here. So you see that guy right there. That is American culture, right? MMA. A famous MMA school is AKA American Kickboxing Academy, where Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier are from. Okay, and that's actually in San Jose. It was about 15 minutes from my house. Now, my shoes might squeak a little bit. It's a long story why that is. So let's go over here. Now, this is American culture, right? Just like that MMA. You see that this person is called clueless. The character in the movie gets good grades, but when it comes to life, she's clueless. Again, the character in the movie gets good grades, but when it comes to life, she is clueless. Like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like the females from Scooby-Doo, like the females from the Flintstones, like the females from the Bundys. These are old TV shows, cartoons, what have you. You have corporate slut, right, is a common thing. Lots of these females have admitted to sleeping with their bosses. The numbers are outrageous. Stormy Daniels, and not only sleeping with their bosses, but to get ahead, right? See how similar she is to these other characters, and she was a porn star. American Woman from American Pie. Knows how similar they are to these occultists doing some kind of atheistic Satanist ritual. They're atheists because they don't necessarily commit to a belief in God, but they use Satanism to mock people who are religious for various immature reasons. The CIA mind control slaves. See how similar they are, right? These cheerleaders, typical NFL cheerleaders. And Jeff Bezos with his kind of gender-neutral LGBT face. And these are really quickly some pictures I took as well from TikTok or something. Okay. So we see that American culture is a culture of breeding recklessness. The vast majority of Americans are reckless. They're careless. Okay. They don't care about being dishonorable. They're indifferent to some degree. They're carefree, shallow, ditzy, dumb to some degree, shady, suspicious, because it's suspicious that they would behave this way when life is very serious. So why behave that way all the time? They're heartless to some degree, groupies, clueless, senseless, out of touch, unfocused, dull, unfair, foolish. So now let's go back to this other picture here. Okay. And notice, it's kind of the satanic spirit being propounded that goes back to the Venom boxing gloves, or those are actually MMA gloves. So this person as a point of reference versus Martin Luther King, who they added red to his lips. Why did they add red to his lips? Why, when they hacked my computer and they messed up my photos, why did they relatively leave that guy alone? But they added red to my lips here in this picture that was way more appealing than that person's picture. And there, then the best martial art picture ever taken. They changed it, made my face look Jewish-ish, a lot less handsome as a result. Changed this color of my skin to be less appealing, added red to the lips. They ruined that picture. Why? Okay, when I could easily beat this person in sparring, I'm the true master, not that person. No offense to that person. Why did they do that? Because they are racist. Why do they allow this person to have a certain amount of appeal? And Jet Li here, while they sabotage my picture, they even add, I don't know if it shows up here, they even add pink to this. This should be a beautiful white color for my outfit, but they made it pinkish, and they took away from the appeal of the swords. If you compare me there to that guy, you can tell if you look carefully that I would beat him. But they made it a lot more subtle than otherwise would be, okay? And they made the pictures where I look bigger, like try to make African Americans seem like a big beast, seem more like this, right? And I'm second generation African, but I'm born in America. Okay, why do they make it so I seem more like that guy in that picture? And they changed the hue of my skin in this picture to make it less appealing, because they are black-face mocker cowards. And they think that being a black-face mocker coward and the orders coming from their elite makes their genes superior, and they think it means that you should respect them. Now, don't you see that as a result of what they've done, the moral person, the righteous person, the Son of God, what would Jesus do? What would I do? He would call them out on it. And he would point out that God has demoted their races and their groups and their bloodlines as a result. And there's even people right now saying, don't say that, but it is the right thing to do. And they worship the devil. They take on a kind of military stance saying, hey, we can't help you if you say that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Hey, don't say that. We'd rather you not say that. They do things like that at times like this. Okay? Think about why that is. Why these shady occult-looking people in suits all throughout history. Okay, why these shady Freemasons with their weird childish rituals. Okay, why are they doing it that way? If the black man hasn't gone beyond the other races, and I'm not a racial supremacist, but this is part of what's going on, it has to be said. If that's not the case, then why change my pictures? Why change them at all? Okay, if you're so sure about your racial supremacy, if you're so sure that it's smart, if you're so sure that you are the people you think that should be in charge, okay, why try to feed into the idea that that's the case? Why have to do that at all if you're so smart? Because they shouldn't be in charge, because they're not so smart. Why change my picture? Why the shady look? Why the shady occult look? Why the optical illusion checkered floor? Why use illusion? Shun illusion. Why do it that way if you're not just scum from very low stock that worship the devil every generation, reducing your family's worth, okay, who sabotage people, who say stupid shit like, after you screen off the rest of the righteous, you'll change course, okay? You'll be sealed in hell permanently after you do that. And every time you say that like it's somehow is something that could help you or something, you sink lower. That's why you look